Sorry, friends, my phone stopped recording. So, chapter 7 is going to be in two parts. So, I'm going to pick up where we left off. Let's see. Oh, yes, that's all right. Well, Pooh, do you see what you have to do? No, said Pooh Bear. Not yet, he said. What do I do? Well, you just have to talk very hard to Kinga as she doesn't notice anything. Oh, what about? Anything you like. You mean telling her a little bit about poetry or something? That's it, said Rabbit. Splendid. Now come along. So they all went out to look for Kinga. Kinga and Roo were spending a quiet afternoon in the sandy part of the forest. Baby Roo was practicing very small jumps in and out of the sand and falling down mouse holes and climbing out of them. And Kinga kept fidgeting about saying, "Just one more jump, dear, and then we must go home." And at that moment, who should come stumping up the hill but Pooh. "Good afternoon, Kinga." "Good afternoon, Pooh." "Look at me jumping," squeaked Roo, and he fell into another mouse hole. "Hello, Roo, my little fellow." "We are just going home," said Kinga. "Good afternoon, Rabbit. Good afternoon, Piglet." Rabbit and Piglet, who had been coming up from the other side of the hill, said, "Good afternoon," and "Hello, Roo." And Roo asked them to look at him jumping, so they stayed and looked. And Kinga looked too. "Oh, Kinga," said Pooh, after Rabbit had winked to him twice. "I don't know if you're interested in poetry at all." "Hardly at all," said Kinga. "Oh," said Pooh. "Roo, dear, just one more jump, and then we must go home." There was a short silence while Roo fell down in another mouse hole. "Go on," said Rabbit in a loud whisper behind his paw. "Talking of poetry," said Pooh, "I made up this little piece as I was coming along. It went like this. Now let me see. Fancy," said Kinga. "Now, Roo, dear." "You'll like this piece of poetry," said Rabbit. "You'll love it," said Piglet. "You must listen very carefully," said Rabbit. "So as not to miss any of it," said Piglet. "Oh, yes," said Kinga, but she was still looking at Baby Roo. "How did it go, Pooh?" said Rabbit. Pooh gave a little cough and began. Lines written by a bear of very little brain. On Monday, when the sun is hot, I wonder to myself a lot. Now, is it true or is it not that what is which and which is what? On Tuesday, when it hails and snows, the feeling on me grows and grows, that hardly anybody knows if those are these and these are those. On Wednesday, when the sky is blue and I have nothing else to do, I sometimes wonder if it's true that who is what and what is who. On Thursday, when it starts to freeze and hoarfrost twinkles on the trees, how very readily one sees that these are those, but whose are these? On Friday, "Yes, it is, isn't it?" said Kinga, not waiting to hear what happened on Friday. "Just one more jump, Roo, dear, and then we really must be going." Rabbit gave Pooh a hurrying sort of nudge. "Talking of poetry," said Pooh quickly, "have you ever noticed that tree over there?" "Where?" said Kinga. "Now, Roo." "Right over there," said Pooh, pointing beyond Kinga's back. "No," said Kinga. "Now, jump in, Roo, dear, and we'll go home." "You ought to look at the tree right over there," said Rabbit. "Shall I lift you in, Roo?" And he picked Roo up in his paws. "I can see a bird in it from here," said Pooh. "Or is it a fish?" "You ought to see that bird from here," said Rabbit, "unless it is a fish." "It isn't a fish, it's a bird," said Piglet. "So it is," said Rabbit. "Is it a starling or a blackbird?" said Pooh. "That's the whole question," said Rabbit. "Is it a blackbird or a starling?" And then at last Kinga did turn her head to look, and the moment that her head turned, Rabbit said in a very loud voice, "In you go, Roo," and jumped in Piglet into Kinga's pocket, and off scampered Rabbit with Roo in his paws as fast as he could. "Why, where's Rabbit?" said Kinga, turning around again. "Are you all right, Roo, dear?" Piglet made a squeaky, rude noise from the bottom of Kinga's pocket. "Rabbit had to go away," said Pooh. "I think he thought of something he had to go and see about suddenly." "And Piglet?" "I think Piglet thought about something of the same time, suddenly." "Well, we must be getting home," said Kinga. "Goodbye, goodbye, Pooh." And in 3 large jumps she was gone. Pooh looked after her as she went. "I wish I could jump like that," he thought. "Some can and some can't, that's how it is." But there were moments when Piglet wished that Kinga couldn't. Often he had had a long walk home through the forest, and he had wished that he were a bird, but he now thought jerkily to himself at the bottom of Kinga's pocket, "If this is flying, I shall never really take to it." And then he went up in the air and said, "Oh, and he came back down and said, "Ow." And he was saying, "Ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ow," all the way to Kanga's house. Of course, as soon as Kanga unbuttoned her pocket, she saw what had happened. For just a moment, she thought she was frightened, and then she knew she wasn't. For she felt quite sure that Christopher Robin would never let any harm come to Roo. So she said to herself, "If they are having a joke with me, I will have a joke with them." "Now then, Roo dear," she said as she took Piglet out of her pocket, "bedtime." I skipped a page. Did I? No, I didn't. "Aha," said Piglet as well as he could after his terrifying journey, but it wasn't a very good aha, and Kanga didn't seem to understand what it meant. "Bath first," said Kanga in a cheerful voice. "Aha," said Piglet again, looking around anxiously for the others, but they weren't there. Rabbit was playing with Baby Roo in his own house, and feeling more fond of him every moment. And Pooh, who had decided to be a Kanga, was jumping in the sandy place on top of the forest, practicing jumps. "I am not at all sure," said Kanga in a thoughtful voice, "that it wouldn't be a good idea to have a cold bath this evening. Would you like that, Roo dear?" Piglet, who had never really been fond of baths, shuddered, a long, indigent shudder, and said in as brave of a voice as he could, "Kanga, I see the time has come to speak plainly." "Funny little Roo," said Kanga, as she got the bath water ready. "I am not Roo," said Piglet loudly. "I am Piglet." "Yes, dear, yes," said Kanga soothingly, and imitating Piglet's voice too. So clever of him. She went on, and she took a large bar of yellow soap out of the cupboard. "What will he be doing next?" "Can't you see?" shouted Piglet. "Haven't you got eyes? Look at me." "I am looking, Roo dear," said Kanga, rather severely, "and I know what I told you yesterday about making faces. If you go on making faces like Piglet's, you will grow up to look a lot like Piglet, and then think of how sorry you will be. Now then, into the bath, and don't let me have to speak to you about it again." Before he knew it, where he was, Piglet was in the bath, and Kanga was scrubbing him firmly with a large lathery flannel. "Ow," cried Piglet. "Let me out. I'm Piglet." "Don't open your mouth, dear, or the soap goes in," said Kanga. "There. What did I tell you? You did it on purpose," sputtered Piglet as soon as he could speak again, and then accidentally had another mouthful of the lathery flannel. "That's right, dear. Don't say anything," said Kanga, and in another minute Piglet was out of the bath, being rubbed dry with a towel. "Now," said Kanga, "there's your medicine, and then bed." "What medicine?" said Piglet. "To make you big and strong, dear." "You don't want to grow up to be small and weak like Piglet, do you? Well then." At that moment there was a knock on the door. "Come in," said Kanga, and in came Christopher Robin. "Christopher Robin! Christopher Robin!" cried Piglet. "Tell Kanga who I am. She keeps saying I'm Roo. I am not Roo, am I?" Christopher Robin looked at him very carefully and shook his head. "You can't be Roo," he said, "because I've just seen Roo playing at Rabbit's house." "Well," said Kanga, "fancy that. Fancy my making a mistake like that." "There you are," said Piglet. "I told you so. I'm Piglet." Christopher Robin shook his head again. "Oh, you're not Piglet," he said. "I know Piglet well, and he is quite a different color." Piglet began to say that this was because he had just had a bath, and then he thought that perhaps he shouldn't say that. As he opened his mouth to say something else, Kanga slipped in the medicine spoon and then patted him on the back and told him it was really quite nice a taste when you got used to it. "I knew it wasn't Piglet," said Kanga. "I wonder who it could be. Perhaps it's some relation to Pooh's," said Christopher Robin. "What about a nephew or an uncle something?" Kanga agreed that this was probably what it was, and said that they would have to call it by some name. "I shall call it Pootlet," said Christopher Robin. "Henry Pootlet for short." And then, just when it was decided, Henry Pootlet, wriggling out of Kanga's arms and jumping onto the ground, to his great joy, Christopher Robin had left the front door open. Never had Henry Pootlet Pig run so fast as he ran then, and he didn't stop running until he had got quite close to his house. But when he was 100 yards away, away, he stopped running and he rolled in the rest of the way home. So as he got his own nice, comfortable color again. So King and Roo stayed in the forest, and every Tuesday Roo spent the day with his great friend Rabbit, and every Tuesday Kanka spent the day with her great friend Pooh, teaching him to jump, and every Tuesday Piglet spent the day with his great friend Christopher Robin. So they were all happy again. All right. So this is chapter 8, in which Christopher Robin leads an expedition to the North Pole. We're going to do this one in another video, so I put our bookmark there as a stopping point. Here's a quick look at the map. So we discovered this was Kanga's house, and that's where they were playing today. That's Pooh Bear's house. That's where they trapped the heffalumps. That's Piglet's house. Owl's house. That's where Eeyore lives. Christopher Robin lives there. Rabbit's house. The bee tree. And that is about it. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the setting of each story takes place.